The suitcase hit the polished marble floor with a loud thud. Every conversation in the hotel lobby stopped for a split second. A little girl tightened her grip on her stuffed rabbit and looked up at her father with tired eyes. "Daddy, are we finally going to sleep?" she whispered. Ethan Brooks forced a gentle smile despite the exhaustion written across his face. "We're almost there, sweetheart. Just a few more minutes." The automatic glass doors slid open as they stepped inside the magnificent Cresthaven Royale Hotel. Golden chandeliers shimmered overhead. A pianist played softly in the corner. Guests laughed over expensive drinks while staff hurried through the elegant lobby. No one noticed Ethan at first. Then they did. The moment the front desk receptionist looked up, his welcoming smile disappeared. His eyes traveled from Ethan's faded gray hoodie to his worn sneakers, then to the little girl carrying an old backpack. His expression changed completely. "Can I help you?" he asked flatly. Ethan walked over with Lily beside him. "Good evening. My daughter and I have had a long day. I'd like a room for tonight." The receptionist barely touched his keyboard. "I'm sorry," Ethan nodded politely. "I'm listening." "We're fully booked." Lily sighed quietly. "Oh," Ethan smiled at her. "It's all right." Then he looked back at the receptionist. "Would you mind checking again? Even one room would be enough." "I already told you," the young man replied impatiently. "We're full." Ethan noticed the screen. The receptionist hadn't checked anything. Not a single key had been pressed. Still, Ethan remained calm. "I understand. Could you at least verify?" "Flights were canceled tonight. My daughter is exhausted." The receptionist folded his arms. "I don't need to verify what I already know." Lily looked up. "Daddy, maybe another hotel?" "We'll see." The receptionist looked relieved. "If that's everything, you'll need to move aside." Ethan didn't argue. He simply stepped away with Lily and sat quietly in one of the lobby chairs. Lily leaned against him. "I'm really sleepy." "I know. My feet hurt." "I know. Are we going home?" "Soon." She rested her head on his shoulder. For a few moments, Ethan simply watched. He watched employees rushing around. He watched guests laughing. He watched people being welcomed with warm smiles. Then the revolving door turned again. A sharply dressed couple entered. The man wore an expensive navy suit. The woman carried a luxury handbag. The receptionist's face transformed instantly. His smile returned. "Good evening. Welcome to Cresthaven Royale." Ethan quietly watched. "So," the gentleman said, "our reservation didn't go through online." "No problem at all, sir," the receptionist replied cheerfully. "We actually have several executive suites available." Lily slowly lifted her head. "Daddy." Ethan remained silent. "We'll take the presidential suite," the woman said. "Excellent choice." Within seconds, key cards were printed. Bellhops appeared. The couple was escorted away with smiles. Lily looked confused. "Daddy." "Yes?" "I thought he said there weren't any rooms." Ethan looked at his daughter. "He did. But—" She looked toward the elevator. "They got one." "They did? Why?" Ethan took a slow breath. "That's a very good question. If this story is touching your heart already, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that appearances never tell the whole story, and you won't want to miss what happens next." Lily frowned. "Did he forget?" "I don't think he forgot." "Then why?" Ethan looked toward the front desk again. "Sometimes people make decisions before they know someone's story." Lily didn't fully understand. She simply nodded. Meanwhile, Kyle Mercer, the receptionist, watched them from behind the counter. He leaned toward another employee. "They're still here." The other clerk shrugged. "They're not bothering anyone. They're making the lobby look bad." Just then, Victor Hale, the hotel's general manager, stepped out of his office. He adjusted his expensive tie. "Everything all right?" Kyle nodded toward Ethan. "That guy won't leave." Victor looked over. His eyes scanned Ethan's clothing. His expression hardened immediately. "What does he want?" "A room." "And?" "I told him we're full." Victor smiled. "Good." Then he walked directly toward Ethan. "Sir." Ethan looked up. "Good evening." I'm Victor Hale, the general manager. It's nice to meet you. I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Ethan looked around. Have I disturbed anyone? No. Have I raised my voice? No. Then why should I leave? Victor crossed his arms. Our lobby is reserved for registered guests. I was trying to become one. You were informed we have no vacancies. Ethan nodded. I was. Then there's nothing more to discuss. Ethan glanced toward the elevators where the well-dressed couple had disappeared moments earlier. I noticed another couple arrived after us. Victor's face remained expressionless. So? They were given a room. Victor didn't answer immediately. They had different circumstances. What circumstances? I don't owe you an explanation. Ethan remained remarkably calm. I'm simply asking for fairness. Victor laughed softly. Fairness? Yes. We're a luxury hotel. I can see that. We reserve the right to refuse service. I understand. Victor expected Ethan to become angry. Instead, Ethan smiled politely. I'd still appreciate an honest answer. What answer? Were there truly no rooms available? Victor's patience vanished. I think this conversation is over. Lily looked between them nervously. Daddy. It's okay. Victor pointed toward the entrance. You need to leave now. Ethan slowly stood. His movements were calm, measured, respectful. My daughter is exhausted. I'm not running a shelter. The words landed like a slap. Several nearby guests turned toward them. A woman gasped quietly. Lily squeezed Ethan's hand tighter. Daddy, I'm here. Can we just go? Ethan looked into her eyes. We will. Then he turned back to Victor. Before I leave, I'd like you to answer one question. Victor sighed dramatically. What now? If another family walked in dressed exactly like us, he paused. Would you tell them the hotel was full? Victor stared at him. I've already answered enough questions. No, Ethan said quietly. You really haven't. Across the lobby, the concierge, Nina Carter, had been watching everything unfold. She wanted to say something. She wanted to walk over. She wanted to tell Victor he was wrong. Instead, she froze. Fear held her in place. She hated herself for it. Lily noticed her. The little girl offered Nina a small smile. Nina felt her heart sink. I should say something, she whispered to herself. But if I do, she looked toward Victor. I'll lose my job. Back at the front desk, Victor's voice grew louder. I won't ask again. Ethan folded his hands calmly. I'd like to speak with someone above you. Victor smirked. There is no one above me in this hotel tonight. Ethan looked directly into his eyes. Are you absolutely certain about that? Victor smiled with complete confidence. I've never been more certain of anything. He had no idea how wrong he was. Victor let out a short, mocking laugh. You heard me. There is no one above me here tonight. Now take your daughter and leave before I have security escort you out. Ethan never raised his voice. I hear you. Good. Then stop wasting everyone's time. I'm not wasting anyone's time, Ethan replied quietly. I'm giving you every opportunity to do the right thing. Victor rolled his eyes. The right thing? You're standing in one of the finest hotels in the city arguing over a room you can't have. I wasn't arguing. You are now. Lily tugged gently on Ethan's sleeve. Daddy? He looked down immediately. Yes, sweetheart. I'm scared. You don't have to be. I'm right here. You promise? I promise. She wrapped both arms around his waist. I don't like when people yell at you. Ethan gently stroked her hair. I know. Victor scoffed. This isn't a daycare. If you're finished with the family moment, I'd like you to leave. A few guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. An elderly woman sitting near the fireplace whispered to her husband, He's being awfully rude to them. The man nodded. The little girl hasn't done anything wrong. Kyle overheard them and quickly stepped in. Our manager is simply enforcing hotel policy. The elderly man frowned. What policy? They only asked for a room. Kyle forced a smile. Unfortunately, that's confidential. It wasn't. Everyone knew it wasn't. Ethan took one slow breath. Mr. Hale. What? I've traveled enough to know every hotel has policies. Exactly. But every good hotel also has values. Victor folded his arms. Don't lecture me about hospitality. I'm not lecturing you. Then what are you doing? I'm trying to understand why kindness seems to disappear when certain people walk through these doors. Victor's jaw tightened. Careful. No, Ethan replied calmly. You should be careful. Kyle stepped around the desk. Sir, you're making our guests uncomfortable. Ethan slowly looked around the lobby. Am I? Silence. No one answered. One businessman finally spoke. Actually, he's been very calm. Victor shot the man an irritated look. This doesn't concern you. The businessman shrugged. It concerns everyone when someone is treated unfairly. Victor ignored him. He pulled out his radio. Security to the main lobby. Lily's eyes widened. Daddy, why are they calling security? They think we're the problem. But we didn't do anything. I know, her tiny voice cracked. I just wanted to sleep. That sentence spread through the lobby like a wave. Several guests looked down, embarrassed. Nina could no longer stand still. She quietly walked over, carrying a bottle of water. She knelt beside Lily. Here, sweetheart. Lily looked at Ethan. He smiled. It's okay. Lily accepted it. Thank you. Nina smiled warmly. You're welcome. Victor noticed immediately. Nina. She stood. Yes, sir? I don't remember asking you to leave your station. I was only helping a child. I don't pay you to interfere. Nina swallowed hard. I'm sorry. No, you're not. She lowered her eyes and quietly returned to her desk. Lily watched her go. Daddy. Yes? She seems nice. She does. Then why is she sad? Ethan looked toward Nina. Sometimes good people become quiet because they're afraid. Afraid of what? Doing what's right can be expensive. Lily didn't fully understand. I hope she's okay. So do I. Two security officers entered the lobby. Both were tall, professional. Neither looked eager to get involved. Victor immediately pointed toward Ethan. Escort this gentleman off the property. One of the officers approached carefully. Good evening, sir. Good evening. We've been asked to remove you. I understand. The officer hesitated. Would you mind coming with us peacefully? Ethan smiled. I haven't resisted anyone. No, sir. I have one request. The officer nodded. What is it? I'd like someone higher than Mr. Hale to make that decision. Victor barked a laugh. I told you already, there isn't anyone higher. The officer looked uncomfortable. Sir, Victor interrupted. No, remove him now. The second officer glanced at Lily. She was clutching her stuffed rabbit so tightly its ears were bent. He quietly asked Victor, Do we really need to do this in front of the child? Victor snapped. Are you questioning my authority? No, sir. Then do your job. Lily suddenly stepped in front of her father. Her little voice trembled. Please don't take my daddy away. Every conversation in the lobby stopped. The pianist's hands froze above the keys. One guest quietly wiped tears from her eyes. The security officers exchanged another look. Neither wanted to move. Victor's face grew red. This is becoming ridiculous. Lily looked directly at him. Can I ask you something? Victor sighed dramatically. Victor hurried across the marble floor with a confident smile stretched across his face. There you are, he called out. Mr. Reed, welcome. I wasn't expecting your visit, but everything is completely under control. Samuel Reed didn't answer. His eyes had already moved past Victor. He had spotted Ethan standing beside Lily. For a brief moment, his face filled with concern. Then he walked straight past Victor without saying a single word. Victor blinked. Mr. Reed? Samuel ignored him. Every employee watched in confusion as he stopped directly in front of Ethan. I'm so sorry I'm late, Samuel said. His voice carried through the silent lobby. I came as soon as I received your message. Ethan smiled gently. I figured you were still on the road. I was. Samuel looked down at Lily. And this must be Miss Lily. Lily nodded shyly. Hello. Samuel smiled warmly. It's nice to finally meet you. Your dad talks about you all the time. She smiled back. It's nice to meet you too. Then Samuel looked back at Ethan. Sir, are you both all right? We're fine. No. Ethan glanced toward Victor. We've simply had a very interesting evening. Victor walked closer, laughing nervously. I think there's been some misunderstanding. Samuel slowly turned toward him. There certainly has. Victor extended his hand. I'm Victor Hale, the general manager. Samuel didn't shake it. I know exactly who you are. The smile disappeared from Victor's face. Kyle shifted uneasily behind the front desk. The lobby became so quiet that the soft ticking of a decorative clock could be heard. Samuel faced Ethan again. I'm deeply sorry this happened. Ethan answered calmly. I'm more interested in what happens next. Samuel nodded once. It will be handled. Victor forced another smile. Handled? Sir, this gentleman refused to leave after being informed we were fully booked. Samuel looked at him. Were you? Victor hesitated. Yes. Samuel turned toward Kyle. Mr. Mercer? Kyle swallowed hard. Yes, sir. How many vacant rooms does this hotel currently have? Kyle froze. Victor immediately interrupted. The reservation system must not have updated. Samuel raised one hand. I wasn't speaking to you. Victor fell silent. Samuel looked back at Kyle. I asked you a question. Kyle's lips trembled. There are... He hesitated. Go on. There are... His voice became almost a whisper. 23 vacant rooms. The entire lobby gasped. Victor spun around. Kyle! Kyle looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him. Samuel nodded slowly. So there were rooms available. Kyle couldn't deny it anymore. Yep, sir. Samuel looked toward Ethan. You were lied to. I know. Samuel turned toward Victor. Would you like to explain why? Victor quickly recovered. It wasn't about race. No? No! It was about maintaining standards. Samuel's eyes narrowed. What standards? Victor gestured toward Ethan's clothes. Our guests expect a certain image. Ethan quietly shook his head. There it is. Victor looked at him. What? The truth. Samuel folded his arms. Explain yourself. Victor sighed. He walked in wearing old clothes. So? He looked like someone who couldn't afford this hotel. And? I made a judgment call. You certainly did. Victor continued desperately. We have to protect the reputation of the hotel. Samuel's voice became cold. The reputation? Yes. Samuel pointed toward Ethan. Do you know who this man is? Victor laughed awkwardly. Obviously not. No. Samuel took one step closer. You don't. Every eye in the lobby focused on him. Samuel spoke slowly. The man standing in front of you, he paused, is Ethan Brooks. Victor waited. The name meant nothing. Samuel continued. He founded Cresthaven Hotels 22 years ago. Victor frowned. He built this company from one struggling roadside inn into one of the most respected hospitality brands in the country. Kyle's eyes widened. Samuel wasn't finished. He owns every hotel carrying the Cresthaven name. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Victor stared at Ethan as if he had stopped understanding the English language. No, he whispered. Samuel nodded. Yes. Kyle stumbled backward until he hit the reception desk. One of the guests covered her mouth. Another guest whispered, That's the owner? A businessman shook his head. They tried to throw out the owner. Victor suddenly laughed. This has to be some kind of joke. Samuel looked at him. Does this look like a joke? Victor's confidence vanished. He looked back at Ethan. Ethan smiled sadly. I gave you several chances. Victor's breathing became uneven. Why didn't you tell us? Ethan answered quietly. Because I wanted to be treated like everyone else. Those words landed harder than any shout ever could. Kyle lowered his head. I'm sorry. Ethan looked at him. Are you sorry because of what you did? He paused. Or because you now know who I am? Kyle couldn't answer. His silence said everything. Victor suddenly stepped forward. Mr. Brooks, I sincerely apologize. Ethan looked into his eyes. Do you? Absolutely. You called my daughter and me a problem. Victor swallowed. I was mistaken. You told me I didn't belong. I... You ordered security to remove us. I acted too quickly. You looked at my clothes and decided my character. Victor had nothing left to say. Ethan knelt beside Lily. Sweetheart. Yes, Daddy? Do you remember what I told you? She nodded. You said people make decisions before they know someone's story. That's right. She looked at Victor. That wasn't very nice. Victor couldn't even look at her. Samuel finally broke the silence. Victor Hale. Yes, sir? Effective immediately. He paused just long enough for every employee to hold their breath. You are relieved of your duties. Victor's face turned white. No. You are no longer the general manager of this hotel. You can't do this. Samuel remained calm. I just did. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Victor pointed toward Ethan. I was trying to protect the business. Samuel's voice echoed through the lobby. No. He stepped closer. You were protecting your prejudice. No one dared speak. The words hung in the air, heavy, unavoidable. Victor looked desperately toward Ethan. Please. Ethan remained silent. There was nothing left for him to say. The truth had already spoken for him. Victor's shoulders slumped. For the first time that night, there was no arrogance left in his voice. Mr. Brooks, please, give me another chance. Ethan looked at him quietly. A chance? Yes. You've been asking me to leave for nearly 30 minutes. I know. You refuse to answer simple questions. I know. You embarrassed my daughter. Victor lowered his head. I know. And now you want another chance? Victor nodded. I've worked here for 12 years. Ethan's expression softened, but not with sympathy. 12 years? Yes. Then you should have known better 12 years ago. Victor had no response. Samuel stepped forward. Please hand over your access card. Victor looked around the lobby. Every employee was watching. Every guest was watching. Slowly, he unclipped the silver manager's badge from his jacket and placed it in Samuel's hand. This isn't how I thought tonight would end, Victor whispered. No, Ethan replied calmly. It's simply the way it needed to end. Victor looked at Lily one last time. I'm sorry. She hugged her stuffed rabbit tighter. My daddy says saying sorry means you have to change. Victor blinked. Then he quietly walked toward the exit. No one stopped him. The glass doors closed behind him. The lobby remained silent. Samuel turned toward Kyle. The young receptionist was shaking. I'm going to pack my things. Samuel stopped him. Did anyone tell you to leave? Kyle looked confused. No, sir. Then stay. Kyle stared at him. You aren't firing me? Samuel glanced at Ethan. That decision belongs to Mr. Brooks. Kyle slowly turned toward Ethan, his voice cracked. I don't deserve another chance. Ethan studied him for several seconds. What made you decide we didn't belong here? Kyle wiped tears from his eyes. He struggled to find the words. I judged you. Why? You didn't look like the guests we usually see. Ethan nodded slowly. So you assumed I couldn't pay? Yes. You assumed I would cause trouble? Yes. You assumed my daughter and I were less important than everyone else? Kyle closed his eyes. Yes. Ethan sighed. Thank you for finally telling the truth. Kyle looked at him with red eyes. I'll never forgive myself. You shouldn't expect forgiveness tonight. I understand. But I also don't believe people grow if we throw them away the first time they fail. Kyle looked up. I don't understand. Ethan took a slow breath. When I started this company, I hired people because I believed they could learn. Kyle listened carefully. Some learned quickly. He smiled faintly. Some made mistakes. He looked directly at Kyle. The important question isn't whether someone has failed. He paused. It's whether they're willing to become someone different. Kyle's tears flowed freely. I am. I hope that's true. Samuel watched quietly. Ethan continued. You'll remain employed. Kyle's eyes widened. What? But not behind this desk. Kyle nodded immediately. Anything. You'll spend the next 6 months in customer care training. I will. You'll work in housekeeping. Yes. You'll assist room service. Yes. You'll shadow every department that serves guests. Kyle nodded again. I'll do it. And every week, Ethan continued, you'll attend training on unconscious bias, empathy, and hospitality. Kyle whispered, Thank you. Ethan gently shook his head. Don't thank me. Kyle looked confused. Earn it. I will. I'm not giving you mercy. Ethan's voice remained steady. I'm giving you responsibility. Kyle nodded through tears. I won't waste it. Across the lobby, Nina stood quietly. She never expected anyone to notice her. Ethan turned toward her. Nina. She looked startled. Yes, sir? Come here. She walked over nervously. I'm sorry I didn't speak sooner, she admitted. I should have defended you. Ethan smiled kindly. But eventually, he paused. You did. I almost didn't. But you chose courage. She looked down. I was terrified. Courage isn't the absence of fear. She looked back up. It's doing the right thing despite fear. Tears filled her eyes. I've never had anyone say that to me. Samuel smiled. Mr. Brooks? Yes? I believe there's one more decision to make. Ethan nodded. I agree. He faced everyone in the lobby. I've always believed leadership begins with character. Every employee listened carefully. You don't become a leader because of your title. Silence. You become a leader because people trust your heart. He looked at Nina. Effective immediately. She held her breath. I'd like you to become this hotel's new guest experience manager. Her eyes widened. What? Samuel smiled. The position is yours if you want it. Nina covered her mouth. She couldn't finish the sentence. I've never managed anyone. Ethan smiled. You already did. She looked confused. You managed to keep your compassion when others abandoned theirs. A tear rolled down her cheek. I don't know what to say. Say yes. She laughed through tears. Yes. The lobby erupted into applause. Several guests stood to clap. Even the security officer smiled. Lily ran over and hugged Nina. I knew you were nice. Nina hugged her gently. Thank you. Samuel looked at Ethan. There's still one problem. Ethan raised an eyebrow. What problem? You and Miss Lily still don't have a room. For the first time that night, Ethan laughed. A genuine laugh. So we don't? Samuel smiled broadly. I think we can solve that. He looked toward the front desk. Prepare the presidential suite. Kyle quickly moved behind the computer. His hands still shook. Right away. Ethan stopped him. No. Kyle froze. No? I'd like an ordinary room. Samuel looked surprised. Sir? The same room any tired father and daughter would receive? Samuel understood immediately. He smiled. Of course. Within moments, a standard deluxe room was prepared. No special treatment, no unnecessary luxury, just dignity, just respect. As Nina handed Ethan the room key, she smiled warmly. Welcome to Crest Haven Royale. Ethan accepted the key. This, he looked around the lobby, is the welcome every guest deserves. If this story has reminded you that kindness costs nothing but can change everything, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us share more powerful stories that inspire compassion, courage, and hope. You never know whose heart the next story might touch. Lily slipped her hand into Ethan's. Daddy? Yes, sweetheart. I think people can change. Ethan smiled as they walked toward the elevators. I think so too, but only if they choose to. The elevator doors slowly opened. Neither Ethan nor Lily noticed the employees watching them with entirely new eyes. For the first time, they weren't seeing a man in a faded hoodie. They were seeing what they should have seen from the very beginning, a human being worthy of dignity, respect, and kindness. Morning sunlight poured through the curtains as Ethan slowly opened his eyes. For a brief moment, the events of the previous night felt like a distant dream. Then he heard a familiar giggle. "Daddy, look!" Lily stood by the window, watching the city wake up below. "The cars look like tiny toys," Ethan laughed softly. "They do." She turned around with a bright smile. "Can we get pancakes?" "I think you've earned pancakes." "I think you have too." A knock came at the door. Ethan opened it. Standing outside was Nina, now wearing a new name badge that read, Guest Experience Manager. She smiled warmly. "Good morning." "Good morning, Nina. I wanted to personally welcome you." "You already did." She smiled. "I also wanted to thank you." Ethan tilted his head. "For what?" "For believing in me. You earned that." "No." She shook her head. "I almost stayed silent." "But you didn't." "I kept thinking about Lily." She looked toward the little girl. "When she asked why people who didn't like helping others worked in a hotel?" Nina smiled through moist eyes. "I realized I had stopped standing up for what I believed." Lily walked over. "Hi." Nina knelt beside her. "Hi, sweetheart. Do you still like your new job?" "I love it." "Good." Lily smiled proudly. "I knew you'd be good at it." Nina laughed. "I'll try my best." "You don't have to try," Lily said confidently. "You already are." Ethan smiled quietly. Children really did have a way of seeing what adults often missed. An hour later, Ethan and Lily sat in the hotel restaurant enjoying breakfast. Something felt different. Every guest who entered was greeted with the same warm smile. No one was judged by what they wore. No one was ignored. A family carrying worn backpacks was welcomed with exactly the same kindness as a businessman in an expensive suit. Ethan noticed. He smiled to himself. Samuel joined them with a cup of coffee. "I've been reviewing last night's security footage." Ethan looked up. "And?" "It's difficult to watch." "I imagine it is." Samuel sighed. "I've been asking myself how something like this could happen in one of our hotels." Ethan stirred his coffee. "It didn't happen overnight." "What do you mean?" "Cultures don't change in a single day." Samuel nodded slowly. "They change one decision at a time." "Exactly." "One ignored complaint." "Yes." "One bad hire." "Yes." "One silent employee." Ethan smiled gently. "And one leader who stops paying attention." Samuel looked down. "I should have visited more often." "You came when it mattered." "I almost came too late." "But you didn't." Samuel smiled. "I suppose that's true." Several months passed. Autumn arrived, then winter, then spring. The Cresthaven Royale slowly became known for something entirely different. Not its chandeliers, not its expensive suites, not even its famous restaurant. People talked about the staff. Online reviews began appearing. "I've never felt so welcome. They treated my children like family. It didn't matter how I was dressed. They treated me with respect. Best customer service I've ever experienced." Business grew stronger than ever. Samuel couldn't help smiling every time he read another review. One afternoon, Ethan called him. "How are things?" Samuel laughed. "Better than I ever imagined." "And Nina?" "You were right." "I know. She's transformed the entire culture." "I thought she would." "Employees actually compete to receive compliments from guests now." Ethan smiled. "That's what happens when kindness becomes contagious." About 6 months after that unforgettable night, Ethan turned to Lily. "How about a little surprise?" She looked up from her book. "What kind of surprise?" "A hotel stay." Her eyes lit up. "Really?" "But this time," he smiled mischievously, "we're not telling anyone we're coming." She giggled. "Like spies?" "Exactly like spies." "I love this game." Late that evening, they pulled into the hotel parking lot. Nothing about Ethan had changed. He still wore simple clothes, comfortable sneakers, an old jacket. Lily carried the same stuffed rabbit. She smiled. "Do you think they'll know it's us?" "I don't think so." "Good." They walked through the revolving doors together. Immediately, a young receptionist looked up and smiled. "Good evening. Welcome to Cresthaven Royale." His smile was genuine. Not forced, not selective, simply warm. "How may I help you tonight?" Ethan walked to the desk. "My daughter and I would like a room." "Certainly." The receptionist typed for a few seconds. "We have several available." He smiled at Lily. "And would you like a cookie while your dad checks in?" Lily looked at Ethan. He nodded. She grinned. "Yes, please." The receptionist handed her a warm chocolate chip cookie. "There you go." "Thank you." "You're very welcome." No hesitation, no judgment, no suspicious looks, just kindness. Ethan quietly watched everything. The young receptionist had no idea who he was. He simply treated him like every other guest. Just then, Nina walked through the lobby. She immediately recognized them. A huge smile spread across her face. "You came back." Lily ran over. "We wanted to surprise you." "I think you succeeded." Nina hugged her. "I'm so happy to see both of you." She turned to Ethan. "Well?" He looked around the lobby. Families, business travelers, tourists, an elderly couple, a construction worker still wearing dusty boots. Every single person was being welcomed with the same respect. Ethan's eyes became misty. "This," he said softly, "is exactly what I dreamed this place could become." Nina smiled. "You taught us that luxury begins with dignity." "No." Ethan shook his head. "You proved it." Lily slipped her hand into Ethan's again. "Daddy?" "Yes?" "Remember when I asked why people who don't like helping others work in hotels?" "I do." She smiled. "I don't think anyone here feels that way anymore." Ethan looked around one last time. "No." He smiled proudly. "I don't think they do either." As father and daughter walked toward the elevators, Ethan glanced back at the busy lobby. Months earlier, he had walked through those same doors and experienced humiliation. Tonight, he walked through them and saw hope. Not because the building had changed, because the people inside it had. And that made all the difference. If this story moved you, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment telling us what part touched you the most, and subscribe for more unforgettable stories about courage, kindness, and justice. Share this video with someone who believes that every person deserves to be treated with dignity, no matter how they look or where they come from. Remember, the strongest measure of character isn't how we treat the powerful, it's how we treat those we think have nothing to offer us. Until next time, stay kind, stay humble, and never let appearances decide the value of another human being.
Welcome to Story Hub TV, where every story comes alive. Discover your next adventure.